Good evening and welcome to the number one group of five college football show in the world. This is the Group of Five guys, and our mission here is to be the voice for the Group of Five football programs, voice that the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to be. We need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social platforms at Group of Five guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Most important thing you can do, share it with your family and friends. On this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl halftime show, new score bug, and we're going to give our full breakdown of the Conference USA schedule release. Hope you enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible. The wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of Five.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of Five programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of Five because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
Well, Jeff, the Monday after the Super Bowl is always an interesting day at the office, interesting day at work. A lot of people, call in the next day. But tell you what, I went to bed nice and early last night after the bludgeoning that we witnessed in New Orleans.
I mean, there was nothing that made me happier than the Kansas City Chiefs just absolutely getting demolished up front.
Did.
Patrick Mahomes running for his life. And I respect Patrick Mahomes for the incredible player that he is. But as a Las Vegas Raiders fan, there's nothing that gives me more joy than them getting their ass beat on national television.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, though. Just absolutely dominated in the trenches. Absolutely dominated. I mean, and here's what's funny, that Chiefs O-line has kind of been a question mark, and they've won in spite of it. But it finally caught up to him last night. And man, oh man, I mean, the Eagles, they keep that thing together. That team is going to be a problem. I mean, they've drafted defense. And I mean, you look at their defense, it's all young. They went and they got all those D linemen from the, the Georgia teams that were really, really good. And then they filled in some gaps this last year with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell.
Got our boy Reed Blankenship in the back
end young
too.
And dominant defense that they have over there.
No, it is. And they've done a great job of really using all facets, right? From a general manager standpoint, drafting well, using free agency to get some key acquisitions, and then, developing talent. And I mean, they've done a good job. You got to give them credit. I don't think anybody was beating them. They were hot at the right time. But how the hell did the New York Giants let Saquon Barkley go to their division rival? It's mind blowing, man. But you know what, Spress? We got to change the entire playoff needs to be changed, though. I mean, we can't have blowouts in the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you, man. I think with the season that Barkley had, and then at the college level, the season that Genty had. The season that the two guys from Ohio State had, the Penn State guys had, I think we are seeing a little bit of a shift in the narrative about running backs. And I got to look at it like this, running backs, it's always this kind of, this narrative that like, well, they're only good for a short window. But my thought is, okay, who in the NFL, like which guys outside of your like Hall of Famers are better than giving you a few years anyway. So if you draft a running back in the first round and they give you 5, 6, 7 good years, that's a win, in my opinion.
It's a huge win, and I don't understand why we devalued running backs so much. And this is coming from a quarterback guy, right? Like, there's not many Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady's to play the game. Like, there's just not. And I don't like the fact that we've completely devalued the running backs. I know the offensive line plays a huge part in that run game, but man, you have a great running back that helps your quarterback out so much. The way they built that roster for Philly, all Jalen Hurts has to do, make plays with his feet when he has to, throw balls on time. He's going to get man-to-man coverage a lot of the time. He got man-to-man coverage. I mean, he's got to play point guard. Like that's what it made it so easy on him. Great defense, great run game, and you have weapons on the outside. I know it, I'm making it sound simple. I know it's difficult. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I feel like too much we're asking rookie quarterbacks in the NFL to come in and save franchises. When you look at the numbers, they don't pan out like that. They don't work out well.
Well, there's so much that goes into the other guys around him. I was watching the game with my father-in-law last night, who's a Bears fan. And, we were kind of talking about, he's like, the Bears in the Mahomes draft, remember the Bears moved all the way up and picked up Mitch Trubisky. And, he's kind of thinking like, I can't believe we did that. We should have got Mahomes. And, two things. One, nobody knew about Mahomes really. I mean, nobody knew he was going to be. Of course, nobody can predict he's going to be what he's done. But also, if you're an organization like the Bears, you're an organization like the Dolphins, you're an organization like the Raiders, it's like, you got to sometimes look in the mirror and think, maybe it's us. Maybe it's the team, maybe it's the organization, maybe it's the fact, it's the coaching, it's the guys around them, it's the system, it's all of it. It's all of it combined. And it has to be perfect. And in Kansas City over the last, however many years, it's hit. Everything's hit. And, so if Mahomes goes to Chicago, maybe he's not even in the league anymore. If Mitch Trubisky goes to the Chiefs and sits behind Alex Smith for a couple of years and plays in an Andy Reid system, I'm not saying he's going to be what Mahomes is doing, but maybe Kansas City's thinking, we got a franchise quarterback in this guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. People forget Mahomes sat. He sat behind Alex Smith, and that's what Brady was talking about, earlier in the year or last year, I guess now, about rookie quarterbacks not getting a chance to sit and develop. We want them to come in right away. And when you've dumbed the game down in the NFL level and quite frankly, the college level, you're having them come in and play against grown ass men who are like, there's no holes on NFL defenses like there is in college. You make a mistake, it's going the other way. And your confidence gets shot as a QB early on in a rookie season. That could be your entire career right there if you're not able to pull yourself out. I give Hurts a lot of credit, man. He gets benched at Alabama, right? Goes to Oklahoma, has a great year. Gets on with the Eagles. He does his thing, gets to Super Bowl, loses. He's had a lot of adversity in his career. For him to come out and just stay true, keep going, keep learning, getting better, and got himself Super Bowl MVP, man. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was rooting for him. And, of course, when he came out, everybody thought, can he play running back? Can he play tight end? Can he do this? And hey, man, last night he sure looked like the better quarterback.
No doubt.
I mean, Mahomes was just off. I mean, they just were not clicking. But a lot of that is just the pressure from the.
I don't care who you are
onset of that game.
I don't care who you are. You have those guys in your lap all night. I mean, we can do. You can't step up. Every time he'd step up, they'd collapse the pocket from the from the interior, try to get outside. I mean, I'll tell you what, man, that Eagles defense is
it's scary, dude.
Real.
Scary.
They didn't blitz. If I could be mistaken, but they didn't blitz one time. They went and let their four guys hunt the entire night. When you can do that, play covers behind it, I don't think there was anything open. Then you got DeJean and our boy Quinion Mitchell and Reed Blankenship, and I mean they just reminds me of the Legion of Boom.
They're loaded, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're fun. It's a fun team to watch. I'm not an Eagles fan by any means. I really have no really no bias towards them at all. I don't like them or dislike them. I think sometimes their fans get a rap of being a little bit out of control, but I think you could go to most professional football games and find somebody that acts like that.
No
But
doubt.
anyway, what'd you think of the other stuff? So we got to just real quick commercials, halftime, the new score bug, Brady on the call.
What's the score bug? I've heard
That's
that twice now.
the score with the on the screen when it has the score and the time left and the teams. You didn't notice
I
it
didn't
was
even
was
notice.
way different last night?
Nah, I
It
wasn't
was
even looking at it.
Oh, really? I didn't particularly care for it because the score was just white with no background, and so sometimes you couldn't. I don't know.
Interesting.
Neither here nor there. But then I don't think Tom Brady's very good at, like, he's good when he gets into certain things, but I don't think maybe they just don't have the chemistry together. But I don't particularly care for listening to him. He's also very I know the guy's been to a zillion Super Bowls, but my God, I mean, every play he had to tell the world how when he was there, when I won the Super Bowl, when I lost the Super Bowl. I mean, all right, Tom, we get it, you know?
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I didn't.
No,
I
you
don't know, I
you
didn't
love
even
Tom
notice.
Brady.
I
You
do.
love that guy.
I'm a Brady fan, but no, I didn't think
you
I didn't
did.
think it was great, but I didn't think it was horrible. I mean, I've definitely heard a lot worse.
Well, yeah.
But the halftime show, I think it was fine. You have the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef going on, so you
Interesting to do that, to let that play out at the Super Bowl halftime, I thought. I mean, surely they knew. I mean, the whole choreography, everything, having Serena Williams in there, all that
Yeah.
was part of it.
Well, the thing is, it's like a very small percentage of the people even know about that and like know what's
Right.
going on, right? And then, you got all the symbolism and the choreography and all this stuff. Like, I thought it was fine. I'm not gonna say it was a bad performance. Like, he's a really good rapper, especially lyrically, if that's your thing. But I think the Super Bowl halftime show, man, to me, it's vocals and showmanship, and that's not Kendrick Lamar's thing. Like, he's not a great
Right.
dancer or performer. Like, he doesn't really sing. Like, his voice is fine, but if I think vocals and showmanship that comes through no matter who you are. Usher was last year, right? Guy's a great performer. Just puts
Yeah.
on a great show, even if you're old or young. Like, so obviously your old head's kind of tuned out to Kendrick Lamar, and that's fine. But it was okay. I don't know.
Yeah. He's you're right, he's a lyricist, right? So like it's not a like, to me, a show. Like, you want that to be something where everybody can sing along with it and go, and you couldn't really do that with him until of course he called Drake a pedophile in front of millions and millions of people, and the whole world sung A minor in unison. That was the only part anybody knew. But yeah, I agree. I feel like I like Kendrick Lamar. I'd go to a Kendrick Lamar concert, but for the Super Bowl, it's like, what can everybody kind of at least vibe to a little bit? That's my thought. But I guess when we were kids and stuff, probably our parents were like, "Oh my God, what is this?" Remember when Nelly did it?
Yeah.
And Nelly came out, and then of course you had the Janet Jackson incident. I'm sure our parents were having a field day during that time. But
favorite commercial though, Sprouse. Favorite commercial. Which one do you have?
Honestly, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. The game was so bad, I kind of was like tuning out a lot, trying to prep for this show a little bit.
I thought the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck, Casey Affleck, Belichick was in there. I thought that was a really funny commercial because I like the Affleck brothers. And then I thought the Mountain Dew commercial with Seal singing as a seal.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. Yeah, you had to know. I bet a lot of people didn't realize that was Seal.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, I always like the Clydesdales just for history and tradition. I gotta tell you, I kind of liked the Bud Light, Post Malone, and Shane Gillis one a little bit.
Great. It was
pretty funny. And Peyton Manning in there with their little button-down shirts they all had on. It's so funny. Post Malone, like, you remember when that guy came out with White Iverson?
Yeah.
And he had the cornrows, and he's still, it's so funny because he's because he still has all the face tats and stuff, but he's like just a completely different person. Anyway, well, football season's officially over. And we got combine here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then a month later, we got the draft. I think it's last weekend of February, right?
Is it?
It goes into the like February 28th, March 1st, March 2nd, I think.
You're right.
And then we'll have the draft in April.
Yeah, February 27th through March 2nd.
Right around the corner, Jeff. We'll be in fall camp again.
I know. We got to get to a couple places this spring, too, if we can.
Yeah, we definitely got to. Well, look, let's before we get into Conference USA schedule, if you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, go over to YouTube, join the live chat on there. We always have a good conversation going on the YouTube. Also, make sure when you go over there, you hit subscribe. Need you to do that. We got a bunch of stuff coming on. Last week, we had Trey Lamb, new Tulsa head coach. This week, Central Michigan. This is a new one for us, Jeff. Central Michigan going up to Mac Country. We got Coach Drinkle coming on. A lot of good stuff happening. So we got a lot of good content. Make sure you stay followed on all the socials at Group of Five Guys and subscribe to all the channels. I'll tell you what I don't like, Jeff.
What do you got?
You know, I don't like a lot of things. I don't like how the weekday games are affecting this conference scheduling. Now, we saw this manifest a little bit last year when Liberty had the App State game get canceled, and they went like they had a month off because of this. I mean, these guys got 3 bye weeks. You're telling me, right? We talked about 2 weeks ago, fixing college football, right?
Yep.
Shrinking down the schedule a little bit to get the championship game. And here we are, Conference USA's got 3 bye weeks, and some of them have a bye week in week 3.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's just unnecessary.
Well, because you have 1 or 2 points in the season where they play 1 game in 3 weeks.
TV money, man. That's what it's all about. It's about the TV money. How can we take nights of the week that normally didn't have football on it? Which, don't get me wrong, like I'm all about
like it.
More football. I'm good with more football, but there's got to be a way to fix the scheduling. You shouldn't have 3 bye weeks in a season. That's too much. You're dragging it out too much.
Yep.
Got to move. We got to either move it up a week, take a bye week out. Hell, I mean, as much as I don't want to get rid of a non-conference, I'd be fine with getting rid of a non-conference if playoffs can start, right at the end of the season when December hits.
Jeff, can I address something also?
Please.
I'm going way off because I thought that I fixed it. I haven't fixed it. If anybody watching is a tech guru, I have this thing where my brightness like automatically changes for no apparent reason at all, and I can't seem to figure it out.
We've been at it for a while trying to.
If anybody watching, and what I did today was I literally turned off the auto brightness, and it's still doing it. So somebody help. This is like a gamer computer. So somebody, one of you Fortnite bros or something, hit me up in the chat or in the DMs. Tell me how to fix it. Jeff, when you look at these schedules, Conference USA, let's start with the toughest draw. So who do you think's got the toughest schedule week to week in this conference?
I mean, I don't think it's even close. I mean, I think the newcomer Missouri State Bears,
they got a tough one.
I mean, it's absolutely brutal, right? They're on the road the first 2 weeks of the season at USC, Southern Cal, and you go on the road at Marshall. And now I know Marshall lost, coach, all their players, all their staff, like still, but Marshall, if there's a team that can figure out how to reload, it's going to be Marshall, right?
Yep.
And then they get their first home game against SMU. So you go USC, Marshall, SMU. That is a brutal way to start the season. You're going to get beat up. You just know it. Usually, not always, but more times than not, the teams that are moving up, it takes a year or two to really get acclimated, to get some new, size-wise physicality to kind of just catch up. Then they get 3 home games in a row. So it's SMU, UT Martin, should be a good game. Should be able to win that one. Then they get Western Kentucky, who's going to be one of the top teams in the conference. Then on the road at Middle, on the road New Mexico State. That's a brutal travel. FIU at home, on the road at Liberty, UTEP at home, Kennesaw State on the road, and finish out with La Tech. I mean, you're playing 2 or 3 of your better teams in Conference USA after that brutal start. I have another one too, but I mean, to me, that's the toughest straw.
Yeah, and to me, I think this conference, I don't necessarily like. They all have a tough P4 opponent they're probably unlikely to beat. So I kind of just made those a wash in this topic. You know what I mean? I mean, like, okay, Middle's playing Wisconsin, Western's playing LSU. I mean, I mean, is there going to be much of a difference in outcome? But along with Missouri State, first of all, how did they get SMU to agree to go there?
Yeah, really. To go on the
I mean,
road.
especially now that
must
SMU's
have
in the
needed-
ACC.
They must have needed to fill a game or something.
Yeah, they must have. But it's interesting. So I want to talk about 3 teams that all I don't necessarily think have a difficult schedule, but they have a very difficult stretch. And they're all to pretty much open the season. So unfortunately or fortunately for these 3 teams, their season will be defined by what happens in the first 3 or 4 weeks. You look at Sam Houston, week 0 on the road at Western Kentucky. Then they're at home versus UNLV. Then they got to go travel at Hawaii. And then they're at Texas.
Yeah.
Now, Sam Houston, I mean, they could beat Western. They could beat UNLV. They could beat Hawaii. But
I don't like Western to open the season in week 0 conference.
No,
game,
I
though.
don't. No, I don't. Yeah, conference game to open the season. I think that's a tough stretch. Now, after that, it gets, lightens up on them a little bit. Here's an interesting one. Liberty. I know everybody's going to be all worked up about Liberty. They don't have a Power 4 game. They avoid Western. They avoid Middle. And Liberty Middle is turning out to be, it has kind of developed into a nice little rivalry. However, they got a stretch to start the season in the non-conference. Well, in the conference and the non-conference, where they go Jacksonville State. Bowling Green is a tough matchup. James Madison at home is going to be maybe the best non-conference game in this conference. And then they play Old Dominion. 3 out of 4 of those on the road. I mean, that's to open up. Now, if you're Liberty, that ain't easy.
The thing I'll say about that is you got, Jacksonville State's obviously got a new coach, new program, right? Bowling Green but Jacksonville State's on the road. Bowling Green on the road, that's gonna be a tough matchup.
Yep.
But then you got James Madison, and then on the road at ODU. You know how physical those games are gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's. Then you got to go on the road to UTEP, which is a far ass travel.
Yeah.
So it ain't. I know they don't have a Power 4 opponent. People, like you said, people are gonna cry about that, but that's a tough stretch.
And this brings back my point earlier, right? When you look at these schedules, okay, and I know we get up here every week and we talk about anybody can beat anybody, and they can. But when you look at Conference USA, I mean, a lot of these guys are playing, some of the better teams in the, Western's got LSU, Middle's got Wisconsin. So, okay, if Liberty plays LSU or Wisconsin, like, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Okay, if Middle loses to Wisconsin 50-0 and Liberty doesn't play a P4, then what's the difference?
Yeah, really.
That's the thing I've never understood about some of the Liberty hate is, yeah, they didn't play one, but they didn't lose by 40-1 either.
Can
I
ask you a question?
What do you got?
I mean, we hadn't looked up anything, but that Liberty James Madison matchup.
Oh, it's maybe a can't miss game, Jeff.
It's got to be right.
Because here's what it is. You have 2 fan bases that, well, first of all, they hate each other, right? I mean,
let's hate each other.
Clear that up. That little corridor, Liberty, James Madison, Coastal. I mean, they just do not get along, and I think it's great. It's also 2 new-ish programs to the national scene, right? And both have had success quickly and early. 2 fan bases that absolutely get after it. They show up every single week. That they travel. They also both travel really well. Both feel slighted, I guess. Both kind of have this. Both
have a section of their fan base that are. They're a sensitive bunch. both have pockets in those fan bases.
I wasn't even going to say that, Jeff.
I am, because I feel like every time we don't
misunderstood fan base.
Every time we don't crown.
Yeah, I know.
JMU for whatever reason, and then on occasion Liberty. There's like a group, and every fan base has them. Don't get me wrong.
Well, and you have to have them.
But they're just their fan bases, to their credit, are very vocal on social media, which is awesome.
Well, yeah, and they're loud and they show up in person. So you know what? They can say whatever they want on social media because they do it in person. These other fan bases that don't show up in the game, you need to be grateful for any damn support you can get, because at least those two show up every week. I want to say, same kind of scenario, Jeff, and it's funny. I have them as one of my easier schedules, but they do have a really tough stretch, and that's Jacksonville State. Their schedule, they're one that if this was the Jack State team of last year that I thought was pretty loaded, I think you could almost make a playoff run, because you get UCF is a Power 4 opponent. And this is what you need. I've said this before. This is the ideal Group of 5 schedule. You want a decent Power 4 that you can beat. You don't want to play Georgia in week 1 in Athens. You'll take UCF all day long. But then, but this is a tough stretch either way. You get UCF, Liberty, Georgia Southern to open the year. After that, their schedule's pretty light.
Well, I mean, I'll say this, though. Murray State is next on their schedule. But after that, Southern Miss on the road.
Yeah, we're going to be pretty good.
We're going to know quick how good Southern Miss is. I mean, they're getting all of Marshall's program, essentially. And then, Sam Houston, again, replacing coach, replacing players. But maybe the new coach can come in and build off of that success. So I'm with you. That's a brutal stretch, because Georgia Southern's, they're always a good team. They're a physical team. Helton's done a great job down there. And then you get Huffett now at Southern Miss. After Liberty, after UCF. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even really look into that way. Yeah. That's a tough way to start the season.
Yeah, tough stretches. And that's the other thing we have to look about, right, for the fans. And I always go back to the middle schedule. Well, it seems like middle schedule every freaking year, except this year, by the way, Jeff.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to that in a minute. But typically, it's like you start the season with 6 games, 3 of which are like brutal. And then the other 3, which are like 50-50. So you start the season 2-4 every year. And then you rattle off 3 or 4 in a row, but all the fans have already checked out because they don't look at the schedule. So if you are Sam Houston, Liberty, Jacksonville State, Missouri State, and you start the season a little slow, in the words of Aaron Rodgers, relax. Maybe when he spelled it out. What if he spelled it wrong like that? Did you see that idiot Eagles fan in the pregame?
What did the mayor?
No, not the guy I saw. Surely that wasn't the mayor of Philadelphia.
No, I think there's a clip of the mayor or some like official in Philly that spelled it wrong.
Oh, they were all spelling it wrong. And then Michael Strahan was like, we need some spelling lessons in Philadelphia. Eagel. Oh, man, Jeez. Dude. All right. What about easiest draw?
Easiest draw? I had the Hilltoppers of Western
really?
Kentucky. I did, because if you look at who they got, right? They don't have, they have a Power 4 opponent in LSU, but that's at the end of the season. So you should be able to work out a lot of the kinks as long as you can stay healthy. They open up with Sam Houston at home, which is, I don't like the conference game to start the year in week 0, but you're getting a new coach, new program essentially. And Western Kentucky has done a good job in this portal season. And then let me tell you, I don't know who they're going to go with. Veltkamp went to FAU. I don't know who they're going to go with starting quarterback. But let me tell you, Maverick McIver, transfer from Abilene Christian. You know how they like
they found another one?
They sure have. You want to hear his numbers last year?
Yeah, I do.
Almost 4,000 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Not a real run threat, but athletic enough to get out on the edge and make some things happen. So if he could come in and put up that type of production at Western Kentucky, Helton's going to throw the crap out of the ball. I think they're going to be just fine. I mean, so you get Sam Houston, and you get North Alabama, and then on the road at Toledo. That's going to be a tough game. Toledo's a great opponent. And then they get Nevada at home, and then it's Missouri State, new program. Delaware new program. FIU, new coach. Louisiana Tech on the road, New Mexico State, Middle Tennessee towards the end of the year, which I'm so glad that we stopped playing this game like in the beginning of the year as a rivalry game. And then on the road to LSU, and they finish on the road to Jacksonville State, who again, we don't know how they're going to be, but new program, new coach, new players. Like, you just have a lot of turnover in Conference USA this year, and some of the top teams that have been able to keep the continuity have some really good shots to make a run. I mean, if you can take care of Toledo, I mean, after that, you should be able to rattle off 5-6 wins in a row until you get to MTSU, which is a rivalry game, always can go either way, and then that LSU game on the road.
You know, I didn't have Western as my quote unquote easiest draw, but I did have Western. I'll talk about it since you brought them up as I call it a schedule set up for success.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're right. Toledo, as I'm looking right now, that's a 50-50 game. No idea. And it's at Toledo. That's going to be tough. And then look, hey, Sam Houston to open up the season. Sam Houston, we just don't know, right? You don't know how much turnover they've had, and you don't know what they're gonna look like. So, but if they get by Toledo and get by Sam Houston, I mean, you're right. You're looking at a team that's potentially 9-0 going into 100 Miles of Hate, potentially 10-0 going to Baton Rouge. Now, look, if you're 10-0, no matter who you play, you're probably in the top 25 at that point. If you're Western Kentucky and if you've done anything that, you know, if you've blown somebody out, right, especially one of those weekday games, if you go, when do they play in the midweek? If they go play at Delaware, or they play at home versus FIU, or at La Tech, or versus New Mexico State, if they take one of those and just absolutely smoke them, score 60, 70, like we know they've been capable of doing, they'll be in the top 25, right? So if you're there, let's say you get up to 21 at that point in the season. If you keep it close with LSU, right? And maybe everybody else has 2 losses, 3 losses.
Let me throw something else at you.
You got a chance, Jeff.
I mean, by that point in the season, there's a chance that if Brian Kelly starts off the season rough in LSU, they might have an interim at that point. So, I mean, a lot of things have to go their way, but I think Western's, I mean, they got to be one of the top teams coming into this season. And with this schedule, it's set up for success. I don't want to discount Nevada. I think they're a good program on the rise, but that's a far ass travel. I mean, that's a 4.5 hour plane flight coming across the country. You know, it just, don't tell me it absolutely affects players. It just does. It just does. So but I think both of those games are very winnable. And then you get to a stretch where you got some new teams in the conference, and then, you know, FIU, we're rooting for Willie Simmons. You know, we got a relationship tie there, but we don't know how good they're going to be either. Yeah.
I mean, and FIU, we'll talk about their schedule here in a minute, but you know, they should get some guys. They'll get some transfers. They were able to keep Jenkins and some guys, but they got a tough little stretch to open the year too.
Yeah.
I mean, Penn State, FAU, and Delaware, you know, Delaware could come in and make a lot of noise in this first year. So be on the lookout for them. You know, I had Middle had the easiest schedule, and I like it. And I'm glad they do.
Finally,
it's about damn time.
First time in over a decade.
Because look, yes, you go to Wisconsin, okay, but you get Austin Peay at home to open the year. You go to Wisconsin, you go to Nevada, which will be tough. Marshall, you have to figure will be down, and for whatever reason, Middle's tended to have Marshall's number when they were conference mates in Conference USA. At Kennesaw State, then you get a week off. You got newcomer Missouri State. You get another week off. You get newcomer Delaware. Then you get Jack State, who probably will be down. Then you get FIU, which that game should have some damn meaning to it. A lot of coaches on that FIU staff that got Middle ties. coming up. But you got it.
Can I just be frank for 1 second?
Yeah.
And if you don't think that coaching staff has a chip on their shoulder because the way they feel that the athletic department at MTSU, how they handled the stock firing, you're absolutely wrong, because I guarantee you, if they get an opportunity to run that score up, they absolutely will.
Yeah. That might be the one I make my annual trip up to the borough, Jeff.
That, or we could hold on, because there's a game the following week, Sprouse, that could potentially. See, this is what you got. This is what I love about putting the rivalry game at the end of the season where it belongs, somewhere in the last 3 weeks. And I think it could be a week later, in my opinion. But
it should be the rivalry weekend game.
Exactly.
Truthfully.
Every year. But you could potentially have, a 5, 6, potentially 7 win MTSU team versus, like you said a second ago, potentially 8-2, maybe 9-1. Western Kentucky, that game's gonna have a lot of meaning down the stretch. Kudos to whoever made the schedule this year. Finally.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I had him as the schedule best set up for success.
Middle.
That's who I had.
So we switched middle and Western. Yeah. That's all we did. Yeah. Which they kind of go hand in hand in my opinion.
They do. 5 of their opponents have new coaches, new staff, and a lot of new players. Now, I could assume that some of these programs, they'll get it figured out and they'll be competitive, but it's just a lot to ask, right?
Yeah. Well, let's look at these other teams, Jeff. So let's just start at the top. I'm looking at the schedule right now. Delaware, the newcomer. Listen, if Delaware wasn't new and I knew more about Delaware, if I knew that Delaware was going to come in and be the Jack State of 2 years ago or the James Madison in the Sun Belt, their schedule sets up real nice too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll take Colorado and Wake Forest all day long over LSU and Wisconsin. Colorado, especially losing who they're losing. Now, supposedly their quarterback's going to be Caden Salter, so I would feel quite good if I was a Delaware defensive back trying to pad my stats in that one. But listen, Delaware, I mean, that's a nice schedule, right? I mean, you get some tough games that are good games, good, battle-worthy games to test you, but you also could win them. And you're not going to get, Colorado is not going to physically beat you up like LSU is going to do, or Wisconsin is going to be able to do. Wake Forest certainly isn't going to be able to do that. I mean, look, if you're Western in week 6, where you've already played 5 games and Delaware's coming off a bye week, it's a little sleeper game right there.
Yeah, and Delaware's a good program. They were 9-2 last year, obviously making the jump up. I'm interested to see how well they fare, how well physically they can make that adjustment, because it is, especially in the trenches. Typically, you got guys that are a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. See if they can continue some good success that they've had at the FCS level and Conference USA. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, and then I want to look at FIU, which right now they have an open week in week 1. So currently FIU has a bye week to start the season, unless they can fill that. But I mean, you go to Penn State, you get FAU at home, who FAU has had their number for a long time now. Then you get this Delaware team we were just talking about. Then you're off. Then you get a UConn team, who's been very good. And you're off again. Then you get Western. So you get a tough start too. And FIU, I mean, at this point, you're hoping for a bowl berth, and 6 wins if you're Willie Simmons and that coaching staff. And then, your finish to the season is not easy either. You go, at Middle versus Liberty, Jack State, Sam Houston.
Yeah,
they got a tough one.
Yeah, what concerns me is that I guess it's the opener on the road at Penn State. It's just going to be a physical game. We talk about it. There are a handful of teams in the country that physically are different. they're big and strong, and you get beat up playing those games. And I would say the way Penn State plays, especially we get to watch them in the bowl game against Boise State, and they're physical, dude. So you know you're gonna lose a couple bodies. Hopefully not. Hopefully they stay healthy through that game and can compete. And who the heck knows, man? You go on the road, fresh new program. You're excited. You get Keon Jenkins back. But that's just my concern with those games is you get beat up, especially on the interior, offense, defensive line, and then you get into your conference play and you're a little banged up. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we talk to coaches all the time when they have a game like that to open the season, and they spend the rest of the season just trying to catch up.
Yep.
Like just trying to get healthy. And you think, right? You go through camp, you go through install, you don't even have your whole playbook in yet. You know, I mean, you have, and then you can't because you got a starter that can't practice, or you got a starter that's not even going to be able to play. And now you got to bring in a backup who's got to, get comfortable with the starters again. It's injuries like that. To me, honestly, it's especially when you get the injuries like where you're just banged up.
Yeah.
Like where, like you could probably play, but probably not a good idea to practice. And then just the team chemistry, everything just gets thrown off with games like that. And sure, you make some money. Sure, your kids get to go play at a cool stadium, but that's it. Okay.
It's tough to overcome those, man.
Yeah. Kennesaw State, their schedule, we'll see how good Indiana's going to be again, but they're on the road 2 weeks in a row. Then they get Arkansas State, who, ended up being pretty decent last year. Then you get middle. Kennesaw State, new coach, but year 2 in FBS, and it might be another tough one for them.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about Conference USA is you have all these new coaches, right? And you can assume they're going to be somewhat similar style, and especially offensively and defensively, the way they want to do things. But at the same time, you don't really know, right? And then we're getting spring ball to kick off here in probably about a month, realistically, and then you're going to have another transfer portal, season or quarter or whatever you want to call it. So you're going to have guys jumping ship, guys that thought they were going to get more time, or the coach doesn't like me, so I'm going to do this. So it's like, man, really until you get into summer, even then, it's hard to really get an idea about these rosters, especially when you have new coach, new staff, new players. How's it all going to fit? It's pure speculation, honestly, until you can get into camp and get some eyes on some bodies and see can you get it all to mesh together well in your first season as a coach. We've had GJ Kinney, Kurt Signetti, like we've had people that have been able to do it, but it's not easy.
Jeff, I'm looking at all these schedules. Would you rather play, your big physical game at the top of the schedule or in the back end of the season?
I don't like having and just from a middle perspective, how we've had our schedule set up where it's always been at the beginning. Now, if you're going to play two of them, two blue blood programs, or one blue blood and another powerful program, like split them up and do one at the beginning and one at the end. But when you have two up front, damn near back to back, it's just physically it's so difficult. But I think the recipe is schedule one good Power 4 program, and then two solid Group of 5 programs, and then get in, and then in one FCS to get the balls rolling, get the gears greased up. I think that's the recipe as far as trying to build your schedule. I think you get a good mix of good programs that carry some weight at the G5 level. You get that one big time opponent, it's just your money game. Let's just call it what it is. And then you get into conference, man. If you do it the other way, who do we have? Georgia and Michigan one year in the same year? Like, my God. Like, by the time you get to conference, you got nothing left.
I just remember the year that it was James Madison's first year, and I just remembered, I'll never forget it, us at the golf tournament.
That game on the radio.
And we were looking at the schedule with Coach Stock, and we all were like, Coach, opening at James Madison, and we all just like head down and just started laughing. Like, oh man, who thought that was a good idea?
Well, Missouri paid us to not They
to
paid
not
us
play.
to not play, to not come to Murfreesboro. So, God bless the athletic department over there. And they're just, we got to pick up a game. Oh, James
Yeah.
Madison's offering to pay us. So it's $1 million swing to go there.
Just get smoked, man.
Absolutely smoked.
Yeah, but they went, I mean, a couple years in a row where it was Alabama, it was Georgia, it was Michigan. I mean, those are the ones, right? Again, you play a Big Ten team all day long. Big difference between Michigan and Illinois.
Yep.
You can play in the SEC all day long. Big difference between Georgia and Missouri. You go
almost beat Missouri.
2 years ago had Missouri, if not for some controversial calls, had a chance to win the game at the end. So yeah, but I'm looking at like Western, right? Like playing LSU late. It's twofold because you could be 9-0, 10-0, but then you might get that physical game where now you're a little banged up just from a season's worth, no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I was beat up at the end of the season and I didn't play. You know what I mean? You beat up from practice, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're going to be beat up already, but do you want that risk of like, man, we're having a great season. We can't lose somebody here. You know what I mean?
No, see, I think at that point, both programs should be either hitting their, like you're going to know at that point.
Yeah.
If LSU's good and if they're not, and you're good as Western, like you potentially go in and beat up on
try to win.
Yeah. Try to win. Right. Or if LSU is really good and they could be ranked, you should be still firing on all cylinders as the Hilltoppers. And hey, let's go knock off a ranked opponent on the road in one of the toughest places to play. And if you lose that game, not a lot of expectations by the media for you to win. But if you win an upset, now you've done something, beating a ranked LSU team late on the road. Because I don't know who. Well, let me look it up here. Let's just go. But I'll tell you
what
after
could,
that.
I'll tell you what could be potentially bad is what if you're 9-0, 10-0, and LSU is 5-5, right? They're bad. And then you go there and you get beat bad. So if you're going to lose that game,
well, then but honestly though, and I don't
but then you're not that good.
Then you're not that good.
Well, of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like we're not trying to hide.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Group of 5 programs, but they shouldn't. I don't think. I mean, who knows? They have Oklahoma on the road at Oklahoma to end the season. LSU does.
LSU. Who do they have before it?
Arkansas. Arkansas. At home.
I know who you meant by Arkansas, Jeff.
Sorry.
I mean, my God. Well, we haven't talked about La Tech at all. See, they play LSU at the beginning of the season. I mean, my God, LSU's all over this Conference USA schedule.
Go figure.
I
said, go figure.
Wild, isn't it? They got a tough one, though, La Tech does, because they're at LSU early. They get Southern Miss at home. They're at UTEP. I mean,
who do they avoid? They avoid
Middle.
There's one other. Can't think of who it is. Yeah, I mean
FIU.
Yep. Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah, if they can stay healthy through that, I mean.
Yeah, La Tech had some flashes last year of looking really good. And, I mean, all these teams did, you know. And this conference is going to be even harder to predict than usual because of all the new coaches and rosters and everything. I mean, I think Western is probably the most stable right now.
Western Liberty probably.
Yeah, but even I mean Liberty.
Yeah, but I mean Western lost Velkamp.
Yeah.
So like,
but Western has proven
true.
They can just bring in another guy, another FCS transfer, and keep winning.
Look, all due respect to Caden Salzer, I think Liberty's better off without him.
I agree.
Just from what things we've heard on the inside from over there.
It was like Terry Johnson said on the voicemail a couple of weeks ago, right? Sometimes you lose these guys, and you, oh my God, how did we lose them? But from a culture perspective, and especially at the college level, you know, culture and chemistry and all of those things matter a lot. And, you know, the what's the phrase? What is it called? Synergy.
Yeah.
It's called when like the sum of the parts equal more than, you know what I mean? So
you
when you have a guy like that, which by the way, I saw a ranking where he was like ranked in the top 10 for quarterbacks for next year. Be really real interesting to see what old Coach Prime does with him.
Yeah, I was going to say
that relationship's going to be very interesting to watch this coming season. And then Colorado, for what it's worth, they got the highest ranked QB in the country coming in, kid from Georgia. So,
yep,
let's not just hand it to Caden Salter.
No, I don't think it's getting handed at all. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see, but yeah, Louisiana Tech is one of the programs in Conference USA that has some continuity to it. Just looking at their portal, it's just so hard. It's so hard to judge right now. Like it's all over the place. People coming, people going. Got to figure out who everyone is, and quarterbacks transferring. I don't know. We'll see. But as far as just their draw based off face value, if they can stay healthy really through their first 4 games, they got a shot to make a run.
Yeah. And then you look at New Mexico State. I mean, Vanderbilt's probably going to have a nice season again. But New Mexico State, that's just such a tough spot, man. It really is. Their schedule's not.
No,
I mean,
got a good schedule.
Yeah, they got a nice schedule. I mean, we'll see how much better Tulsa's going to be, with Trey Lamb at the helm. They get Tennessee at the end of the year, but
that'll be rough.
I mean, but outside of that, what is that? Who is that? Bryant to open the season?
Yeah, I mean
Bulldogs.
That'll be a good tune-up game. Tulsa, I think Tulsa will be better. That'll be a tough game, but they get them at home.
Yeah,
which is good.
You're at La Tech.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a tough one for New Mexico State this year.
Yeah,
don't sleep on those Bryant Bulldogs now.
No, they're not bad. They're not a bad ball club.
No. I'll tell you who's got a nice schedule, and this is the last one we're gonna hit is UTEP.
I was looking at that.
UTEP's at Utah State to open the year, which should be an awesome environment and a great game to open it. Then is that UT Martin. Now they're at Texas, but then they get Monroe at home, they get La Tech at home, they get Liberty at home, at Sam Houston, at Kennesaw.
I actually really like this schedule.
They don't play Western or Middle.
Mm-mm.
I love how we're sitting here talking about Middle being like one of the teams, like they avoid Middle. Now, I think Middle's going to be better. I do. And from a program perspective, compared to the rest of this conference, they've been, yes, bad the last 2 years. But outside of that, I mean, it's been a 7-8 win team forever. Yeah, I like this UTEP schedule a lot.
Well, I'm interested to see how Malachi Nelson does down at UTEP.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Scotty Walden is a really, really good coach. And obviously last year was his first year. It was tough sledding. I mean, but you're trying to build a culture. I think he's authentic. He may come off a certain way in certain occasions, but I think that's authentically him. And I think the players gravitate towards him. We know, no player who's down there, and we got some inside info. I mean, they love him. They love Walden.
Yeah.
So, you get a quarterback to come in there and be able to spin it a little bit, because that's what Walden likes to do. Spread them out, throw it around, go fast. I think UTEP's got a chance.
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, Malachi Nelson is going to get his shot to show everybody why he was the number 1 recruit in the country a couple of years ago, why he went to USC, and he's going to get a chance to prove himself. Now, what an awesome road environment for him to really start his playing career,
Yeah, hopefully he wins the job.
Oh, that's true. That's one thing for all these teams I can't wait to see. With all the transfers that everybody gets, everybody's getting 2 and 3 transfer quarterbacks in, is everybody always thinks it's the big 5-star recruit. And so far, that's not been the case for who wins the job everywhere. So very interesting to see. But anything else, Jeff? We got any voicemails?
No voicemails this week. We need to get some people calling in.
We get some people calling. I want to hear some Super Bowl takes. Get some people. We got to start talking. I mean, we never really claimed to be, combine or draft gurus. But very interested to see what some of these guys run at pro days. Genty, I'm so interested to see what he does. Because he always kind of had that breakaway speed, but he doesn't. I don't know that he's going to run a great 40.
Yeah.
Maybe so. Your Raiders, if that happens, your Raiders are not going to take him. I mean, if he don't run a 4.4, they're going to take him off the board.
Al Davis is long gone. I think we're getting out of the mantra of just drafting the fastest player every year.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. People keep saying we're not going to take a running back at number 6. I just think that we're not a quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl as the Las Vegas Raiders. And we need a lot of things. And I'm already not high on Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward to be the savior of the franchise. You don't have a veteran really on the roster. We saw what Minshew and O'Connell did last year. I mean, both were duds for the most of the season. Take a, we got Brock Bowers. Take Genty or trade back a couple bit if you don't think he's going to get taken, by 7, 8, or 9 or something. Trade back, get another pick, and then go Genty. And dude, you got Genty, Bowers, Myers. You got a lot of firepower.
If you knew, and I'm not saying anybody is the same as these guys, but that's what the draft is, right? It's projections. It's, potential. If you had a Saquon Barkley in the draft this year, you're taking him number 1, right?
Yeah.
I mean, over a quarterback. Remember when the Giants drafted? This is what pisses me off about it. Now, I know we got to go, Jeff. This is what pisses me off so much about our sports media is I remember they crushed the Giants for drafting Saquon Barkley instead of getting a quarterback. That's what they all thought. And then they ended up with Daniel Jones. They crushed him. I don't know. I don't remember who the quarterback was that they were supposed to get, but they crushed him for drafting Saquon. And then they crushed him again where they let Saquon walk out of there. Yeah. And now they would probably crush him again if they drafted another running back. But like I said earlier in the show, you can get 6, 7 years out of a running back. These quarterbacks are so hit or miss, especially a running back you can put in there year 1. They're going to be ready to go. A quarterback year 1, you're going to have all kinds of stuff going on. So
I'm just not high on any of the quarterbacks truthfully coming out of this draft. And Brady's, he's part ownership now. He's making a lot of calls over there in Las Vegas, a lot of shots. He's big on getting a quarterback, developing a couple of years, and then getting them. So I could see us getting a veteran. A lot of people don't like it, but I think Aaron Rodgers still has a year or 2 left in him. He can still spin it. Get him in Vegas, draft Genty. You got Genty, give him Genty, Bowers. Your defense wasn't bad. They were just on the field the entire season last year. Anyways, that's our NFL talk for the day.
Oh, well, that would have probably been a good pick, but
what's that?
When the Giants got Barkley at number 2, Baker Mayfield went number 1 overall, so he was out. Sam Darnold went number 3, so I'll take Saquon Barkley over Sam Darnold every day of the week. Josh Allen went 7. It would have been a nice pick. Would have been a good pick.
Again, him
other
coming
quarterbacks
out of
in that. Josh Rosen went number 10.
Bust.
You're taking Barkley.
But here's the deal, Sprouse.
Lamar Jackson went 32.
Yeah.
But again, nobody was saying that they should have drafted Lamar Jackson. They were saying they should have drafted Sam Darnold. That was the one that everybody thought was the guy.
Well, here's the other thing. If Lamar Jackson isn't in Baltimore,
right,
with Harbaugh and Allen at the Bills, I can't think of their quarterbacks coach that developed him early on. I can't think of his name, but they did such a great job of developing them because both of them had freak athletic ability, but weren't great quarterbacks, weren't NFL ready, but they both got the opportunity to develop for a couple of years and they've been able to figure it out. And they've just been they've been in great organizations. It's not just one thing. It's the entire package, just like it is in college.
Trying to look up the Bills coaching staff at that.
I don't know if he's still there, but Allen's talked about him a bunch.
David Culley. Is that who it was?
Maybe.
Anyway,
yeah.
The other thing I was going to bring up when we were talking about the media is, did you see? I shared it on the Instagram story where They had the whole panel on ESPN make their predictions on Saturday,
Yeah.
and they all picked the Chiefs. And then on Sunday, they asked them again, like two of the same guys, and they all went the complete opposite way.
Yeah.
I mean,
So bad.
what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't know what they're doing.
I'll tell you what I'm doing, Jeff. I'm hitting like and subscribe on
Do it.
YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcast. Hit the follow button. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you follow us on there. You can go to group5guys.com, get you some Group of Five Guys merch. Download the Varsity app. Listen to the show for free on there. You guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great week. We're out of here.